Hello, Endo Warrior Goddesses. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. I am so grateful that you are here. If you haven't read by the title of today's video, today I'm going to be talking about starting my period as a teenager with endometriosis. And this one's going to be a doozy, and I can see this being helpful to a few different people. If you are a mom with a child who is starting their menstrual cycle, if you are a young person who is about to start this cycle yourself, or if you are a person who menstruates, whether or not you know somebody who is younger than you who is pursuing and about to start their menstrual cycle themselves. I just think that it's so nice for us to be more compassionate and understanding and welcoming in this environment to other individuals going through some of these same things. And I know that, like, for myself, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my journey here in a few minutes, I don't want anyone else to have to go through some of the things that I went through growing up. And so if I can share my story and we can share our experiences and understand how to be more compassionate and understanding to these younger individuals, then I would love to facilitate that. And that's why I'm here today sharing this with you. If you like this kind of content and you want to stick around for more, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post videos 3 times a week unless something happens. Last week I had some things happen with my phone and my health and my dog's health, so an impromptu last minute I didn't post, but usually I post 3 times a week, and so you can expect more content related to endometriosis, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health on here. And if you want more, I go live in the Endo Warrior Goddess community on Facebook every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That time frame might be changing soon, but nonetheless, there will still be content waiting for you there every Friday, as well as a few other times a week. So this is more in-depth content. I'm gonna stop rambling. Check that out on the link in the description if you are interested in that. I hope to see you inside. To start this video off, I want to go ahead and throw the question out there and ask you, what was your first menstrual cycle like? What kinds of things would you go back and tell yourself if you had the opportunity to talk to that younger self? And were you experiencing endometriosis pain back then? And if you were, did you have somebody in your life that was there to support you in that way and explain to you what that was? Do any of you have somebody in your life with endometriosis that kind of were able to explain and walk you through and be supportive to you in that way on your own journey? I would love to hear those stories from you in the comments below. And again, I just think that it's so nice to build this sense of community in that way. So thank you for being supportive. Thank you for opening your heart and sharing your story. I'll talk a little bit more about why I think that is so important more towards the end of this video, but without further ado, let's dive right in. I got my first period when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I honestly don't remember if I was 12 or 13, and I honestly don't remember the very first one that ever happened. I just don't. I remember some of the more traumatizing things that happened to me during my early years of menstruating and trying to figure that out on my own. I remember when I first started my cycle, I felt so ashamed. Like, I felt like I couldn't tell my stepmom, I couldn't tell my mom, I couldn't tell my dad or my stepdad, obviously. And perhaps not so obviously, like, why does that have to be an obvious thing, you know? It's a human experience that we go through, and there's so much stigma and shame that that society puts around that, and it makes us feel like we can't share, we can't be open, we can't go to people, we can't, that we're all alone and we're isolated in this experience. And that starts so young. Like, I felt that way as a 12 or 13-year-old girl starting her cycle. I felt like I had nobody there to talk to. And so I was trying to figure things out on my own. I was taking products wherever I could get them, whether that was from the office at school or public bathrooms. They always had like those little baskets, and I would load up in there. And it wasn't until like my mom and my stepmom kind of figured things out that I was doing such like makeshift things that they kind of bombarded me with this like informational, uncomfortable situation. And I was like, again, just very uncomfortable and shameful around that. I wanted nothing to do with being confronted in that way. And it was just something that I kept trying to deal with on my own. And I've talked about this before. When I was in middle school, I remember having to change like halfway through my days into my gym shorts because I would bleed through every single pair of pants that I would wear every single day when I was on my cycle. I remember in middle school having to call home and being taken out of school sick because my cramps were so bad. I remember, and this one's kind of funny, but during swim class, it was definitely not an option for me to like wear a tampon and go to swim class. That was like a mortifying experience for me. I actually became the girl that would set up shop in the bathroom stall in the locker room in the gym class, and I would, if everyone wrote their notes for me, I would sign their period notes that they didn't have to swim for class that day. I was the forged parent signature girl, so I had like all these, I had like different colored pens, like a clicky pen that I would use so that every note was in a different color and no one ever suspected me for it. So I guess here my legacy lives on. But no, I remember like bleeding onto the sheets in hotel rooms on vacation growing up. I remember like going on road trips and having to stop at rest stops because things happened, or I would start my period like on the way to our grandma's house an hour and a half away in the middle of nowhere, and we'd have to stop at a store so that I could, you know, take care of things in that way. And so it was just experience after experience after experience of feeling shame and isolation. Just, I felt like I had nobody to go to. Even like turning 15, I got into a more serious relationship and my mom decided to put me on birth control. And, you know, parents should make decisions for their kids. Things like that, I just don't know if that's a decision a parent should make for their child 100% on their own. I don't know. I really regret my time being on birth control, and I wish that that was never kind of like instilled on me. Because I had such a negative experience to that, and then later on came to find out that I had a health condition that actually makes my body incompatible with synthetic hormones, and so that explained why I was going through so many different side effects and getting sick all the time from the birth control pills. But I was on birth control for a while, and that helped with my symptoms, but like I mentioned, my mental health was in the absolute worst state that it could have been. I was getting so sick every single day. It was like I was having morning sickness every single day on this pill, and the only thing that would help was a prescription to the medication that they prescribe to cancer patients on chemotherapy. And so you can imagine, like, yes, I don't want to take birth control pills if I'm going to have to take the same treatment that is used for chemotherapy to help with the nausea. Like, that's not fair. That's not a way to live your life, and that's never what I wanted. Because I was experiencing such terrible pain and nausea and sickness on the birth control pills, I decided to stop taking them. It was actually around that time that my mental health was at a really terrible point, and I'm going to come on here and talk all about my mental health journey with MTHFR, but right at the same time that I decided I needed to make a change in my mental health and that I wanted to take a holistic approach to healing my mental health, I realized I had a genetic mutation called MTHFR that again made my body incompatible with those synthetic hormones. And because of that, I decided to get off of the birth control. And I'll never forget what my doctor said to me when I went into her office and I told her that I wanted to get off the birth control. She told me that she felt that that was the best idea for me for a long time, but it is her job to sell those pills, and so that is why she has to push the pills. And I left there just, one, feeling so proud of myself, but two, in complete disbelief that she actually told me that. And it honestly wasn't that much longer that I was her patient and I was seeing her that I had labs done, and when they called to give me my results, they had told me that my doctor quit her practice, and she didn't leave any notice where she was going. And years later, I found out that she kind of retired from the practice side of things, and she kind of moved from the practice side of things and went more into the drug side of things. And I don't know how I feel about that. All I know is that I am glad that that was the situation, because had it not, I don't know that I ever would have changed doctors. And Leaving there, I got so many more answers and results, and that was where I needed to go on my path. I now have the answers. I was diagnosed officially and surgically with endometriosis earlier this year, back in April 2021, and I'm just, no one likes to be told they have a chronic illness, but it just feels so validating when for so long and for so many years that doctor told me that my pains were normal, that once I got off the birth control and I was experiencing those extremely painful cramps and heavy bleeding again, that was just my normal, is what I was told. That I have this, it's my genetic curse, that I have to deal with that, and it's welcome to being a woman, and that's not fair to anyone. Like, I'll never tell anybody that. That's not the answer that anyone wants to hear. And so what I wanted back then, before I got on birth control, after I got on birth control, when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, was somebody to listen to me and not just hear what I was saying. Somebody to give me that validation and tell me that I'm not crazy, that this isn't just a curse, a generational women's curse that I have to experience in my life. That this actually is something that has a name and that we can do something about, whether we decide to treat that holistically or hormonally. I've already mentioned I can't handle the hormonal treatment, so I aim for the holistic side of things, but everybody's on their own journey, and so if hormones work for you, then that's your journey, but holistics are working for me, and so that is the path that I am on. What I wanted back then was someone to support me, for my family to be more open and compassionate and vulnerable and understand what I was going through. Even if they didn't understand what I was going through, not just brush me under the rug like I was crazy. I can't even tell you how many times people actually called me a martyr, or a hypochondriac, that something had to be wrong with me every single day. And like, why was I always the one in pain? Or why did I always have these headaches? Or why was I always having cramps? Or it was always something with me. That was just kind of what people said and how they brushed me under the rug. And it made me feel crazy. It made me feel like, you know what, you're right. What is wrong with me? Why am I the girl that something has to be wrong with every single day? But that was never the way to look at things. And no one ever had compassion for me. And so I never learned to have compassion for myself. And so that's what I want to kind of tell you moving forward, is to have that support and give that support and give that compassion to other people going through this, because you never know what they're going through. You just don't. And so I wanted someone who understood, but I didn't necessarily have someone who understood in my life. And what I know now and what I've learned from just speaking up and sharing my story is that sometimes you have to be the first person to initiate. You have to self-reflect and decide, like, I need support in this way, and this is what I'm going through. Who can support me in that way? And it's not always the people you have direct access to. So sometimes you have to be the first person to share that story and put yourself out there, because honestly, there's always somebody who feels the exact same way that you do, isolated and alone and unsupported, who is just as afraid, if not more, to speak up and share their story. So if you are that person who is listening to this right now and you have been afraid to share your story, be the first person to speak up. Be that person, because you never know who on the other side needs to hear it. I just kind of had that epiphany the other day of, like, share your story, because you never know who needs to hear it, whether or not they live next door, a block down the road, in the same city, in the same state, or somewhere in the United States or in the globe. Like, this place is huge, and it's such a small world. It's a smaller world than you realize. I never realize how many people are going through the same things that I am until I share my story and I put myself out there and I get vulnerable and talk about what I'm experiencing. So that's what I'm here to do. That's the message I'm here to share, and I hope that it resonates with you. I send my love and healing energy to all of you who are going through the same thing, my fellow Endo Warrior Goddesses. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. That is all I have for you today. Happy healing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Join our Endo Warrior Goddess community by clicking the link in the description. And as always, I'll be back every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday with more content.